Good morning, this is Kathleen Clow with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Wednesday, August 6, 2025. The fire potential impacts across the next few days include gusty winds between 25 and 35 miles per hour and low RH across southeastern Nevada, most of Utah, and the Arizona Strip today, where minimum relative humidities will be in the single to low double digits. Tomorrow, we expect to see RH values increase slightly across eastern Idaho, western Wyoming, and that same area of risk over southeastern Nevada and much of Utah, but winds will increase to 35 to 45 miles per hour, bringing continued risk for gusty and dry conditions. Northern Idaho will see some mixed wet and dry storms, with the wettest storms to the north. On Friday, the high wind risk persists across the southeastern tip of Nevada, the Arizona Strip, and the eastern half of Utah, as well as eastern Idaho and western Wyoming, still with that concern for that lower RH and gusty winds. Radar estimates from the past 24 hours show no precipitation across the basin, and the satellite loop from yesterday afternoon into the evening shows a heavier band of smoke and clouds across central Utah, but mostly clear skies across the rest of the basin. In the past 24 hours, the Great Basin had 25 new starts for a total of 949 acres and a large fire growth of 25,043 acres. The past 3 days show the highest precipitation amounts across the Nevada-Idaho border, portions of central Idaho, and parts of western Wyoming. These areas received at least a tenth of an inch, with sparse pockets of up to 1 inch up north, while the rest of the basin remained completely dry. During the last 30 days, the Great Basin has remained well below normal precipitation-wise, except northwestern Nevada and sparse portions of the Idaho-Oregon border. ERC values remain between 50 and 75% across western Idaho and the Sierra Front from recent precipitation and higher RH, but are back on the rise across the Sierra Front as things continue to dry out. ERC values across eastern Nevada, Utah, eastern central Idaho, and western Wyoming remain extremely high, above 97%, and are on the rise across Utah and western Wyoming. Satellite from this morning shows clear skies and some lingering smoke, but overall not a whole lot this morning. Smoke impacts for today will occur over the Nevada-Idaho border and into central Idaho due to those northern Nevada fires, as well as the eastern half of Nevada from a large California wildfire. This smoke from California will travel into Utah as well and combine with smoke from the Monroe Canyon and Dragon Bravo fires, where we will see the most significant smoke impact. A similar pattern occurs again on Thursday. Today, that high risk area for winds remains across Utah and parts of eastern Nevada, and the rest of the basin remains at moderate risk due to dry and breezy conditions, except the Sierra Front and northern central Idaho, which remain at low or little to no risk due to previous precipitation and higher RH values. Today, we expect to see that dry air kind of remain over the basin, and you can see that kind of moisture starting to creep in up north, which we'll see tomorrow. Today will be hot and dry with no chance of precipitation and max temperatures on the rise between the mid 80s to low 90s for the northern half of the basin and in the mid 90s to even triple digits across southern Nevada, Utah, the Arizona Strip, and the Utah-Colorado border. Today's main concern is gusty winds, where we expect to still see those 25 to 35 mile per hour gusts across portions of eastern Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip. Minimum relative humidity still remain critical and in the single digits to low teens across those gusty wind areas in the southern half of the Great Basin, and then the low teens to low 20s where we've been having our rain and higher RH in the northern half of the basin. For Thursday, this wind risk expands, and we've issued high risk for wind across the entire eastern half of the basin. On the left, you can see that dry air and gusty winds across that entire risk area. The Sierra Front and northern central Idaho remain at low or little to no risk due to higher RH values and the chance for precipitation across northern central Idaho, which we showed in our 3-day. Here in the convective outlook, you can see that marginal area outlined with a T-storm risk across northern central Idaho, where we've marked in our 3-day we expect to see some wet and dry storms. On the right, you can see we expect up to a tenth of an inch across most of that area, with pockets up north of up to a few tenths. The biggest concern for tomorrow is that area of high winds over southeastern Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip, where we expect gusts between 35 and 45 miles per hour and some of the highest winds we've seen in recent days. Minimum relative humidity still remain critical and in the single digits between 4 and 7% across those gusty areas, maybe up to the low double digits. And then we're still going to see those higher RH values across the northern half of the basin where we've got that rain coming in on Thursday. On Friday, we've marked high risk again for wind across the Arizona Strip, southern and eastern Utah, and western Wyoming. The rest of the basin remains at moderate risk except the Sierra Front and northern central Idaho, which remain at low or little to no risk due to higher RH and the precip in northern central Idaho from Thursday. But again, you can see that kind of gusty, dry air across most of the basin on Friday. No precipitation is expected within the basin on Friday, and max temperatures will be between the high 70s to mid 80s for the northern half of the basin and in the low to mid 90s and even triple digits across southern Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip, but overall a little bit cooler on Friday for us. Here you can see those 25 to 35 mile per hour gusts that we expect across southeastern Nevada, southern Utah, the Arizona Strip, and western Wyoming. Minimum relative humidity still remain critical and in the single digits between 5 and 10% across those gusty wind areas in the southern half of the Great Basin, and in the teens to low 20s where we've been having our rain and higher RH values in the northern half of the basin. The next 3 days of precipitation shows most of our precip across northern central Idaho, and the rest of the basin will remain dry with no precipitation over our large fires. On Saturday, things begin to dry out, and Sierra Front is expected to move from low risk to moderate risk. The rest of the basin remains at moderate risk due to continued dry conditions, except for northern central Idaho due to previous precipitation, and western Wyoming still in that low risk category. On Sunday, there's no longer any green on the map as conditions continue to dry out. You can see that northern central Idaho portion moving from green to yellow. Most of the basin will remain in that moderate risk with those dry and breezy conditions that we expect to see on Sunday. Conditions persist similarly into Monday, and we've marked no high risk triggers, but you can see most of the basin still in that moderate risk category due to that dry air mass and just drying conditions overall. On Tuesday, again, that drying trend continues, and we see similar conditions across most of the basin, keeping the basin at that moderate risk level. We can see that dry air mass still kind of sitting over the entire region there. The next 7 days of precipitation show at least up to 1/10 of an inch of rain across portions of central Idaho, and also some spotty precipitation across Nevada and Utah. Models are still a little bit misaligned on whether or not we're going to get that moisture into Utah, so we will be keeping an eye on that. But overall, across most of the basin, pretty dry the next 7 days. The next 8 to 14 days show the chance for above normal temperatures across northern Nevada, southern Idaho, and all of Utah. We've got a few pockets of near normal up in northern central Idaho and then also in southwestern Nevada. Precipitation wise, we're looking at near normal for most of the basin except below normal in that large portion of Nevada there. And then, of course, a little bit above normal where we're going to see our precip in northern central Idaho. That concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.